I am super stupid. Really, really stupid. This is take number three. First take, I forgot to take the correct audio. Take number two, I did not click record. I clicked the virtual camera thing. Sorry, the virtual camera thing in OBS. So there I go again for the third time. Uh, I was watching Black Lodge Games stream with Kyle, the designer and creator of Streets of Peril, the RPG. And watching that, I realized how so many things that he thought of and he designed for his game are things that I've been thinking about for a very long time now. Down to mood, some mechanics, not much on the mechanic side, but on the creative process part, a lot of things. He was greatly inspired by Warhammer, and I was as well. So I guess I'm gonna put this out now, just for a record. I don't know if I'm gonna ever publish my games. It's a thing I do mostly for fun, but at least so I can say I've thought of that before, right? So I'd like to take you guys, you two people, a little tour how I do magic in my game and in my world. So the philosophy behind why I did what I did. I for the type of game that I like to run, which is a more immersive game, the Vancian magic system hogs it down a bit. You have the meme, right, of the player who is 5, 6 sessions deep playing a wizard, and he doesn't know how magic missile that he uses every single time. He doesn't know how that works, and he's using it all the time. I'm trying to not use strong words here, but like, is that fun? Like, or is that interesting? When when you get into the flow state where the game is you're living the movie in your head, and then you have to stop because, oh, is he within range of my spell? Or like, do I have a pinch of salt in my pocket? Like, I don't like that. I like games to flow. So not only in the magic system, but I took away with a lot of tables and lists. I don't like those. I think those are great for prep, for you to get ideas from, but not for you to look during the game. So I took it away. I like also the idea that you can use spells in very creative ways, and that player skill and player creativity, they become one thing. So the player, when he's not playing, if he's really into the game, he can, when he is going to the bathroom or something, he can think, wow, like that spell, like maybe if I use it like this, I can do this. The game stays with you after you finished it. The same way, when you read a good book, stays with you a long while after you finish it. And I don't like NPC magic. Like sometimes you're playing a game and suddenly the evil wizard, he weaves his hands, and from the ashes of the brazier, this giant ash eagle forms, and he climbs on top of it and fly away. That is not a spell like on the book. The DM probably made that up on the spot, but it was cool. It was very cool. When I'm a player, and if I'm a wizard and I see that happening, or I see like this ancient door, like a la Lord of the Rings, right? That if you say in the specific correct this elven language, it will open. If I'm a wizard, like I want to do that. Like that is cool. Like I'm a wizard. If I can do that right now, maybe that becomes my next goal. I want to get enough knowledge to be able to recreate this beautiful spell. It's like an artist today, a sculptor studying from the great masters. Like I want to do like they did. When I play a wizard, I have that mentality, so I wanted to incorporate that into the game. So yeah, that was the philosophy of why I did the way I did. So let's get into now the fluff part and how it works mechanically. Okay, I'm recording, right? Oh yeah. So, I talked about in the previous video a little bit about the humors. I don't want to get into that again, but humors are people believed from 15th century up to 18th century that we had these fluids inside of us, the humors, and they would control our health, our mood, our emotions. And each of these fluids, they were connected to an element, right? So you have fire, air, earth, and water, the main four elements. In the world of Ethera, these four elements, they are not the base, they are the building blocks of creation, but they are not, let's say, the atom of creation. The atom of creation is ether, which is the perfect combination of all matter. So from ether, at least the pagan tradition says that the gods divided the ether into easier stackable blocks for creation, these bricks for creation, and from that on they started building the material world and building life out of it. So you need to understand that. So because we have blood, which is air, because we have snot or phlegm, which is water, because we have yellow bile, that is fire, and black bile, that is earth, we have some connection to the elements. So magic in Ethera goes from that, because you have the humors in your character sheet. If you're a magic user, your humors are going to be very important, because you need to use the right emotions for the spells, for the specific effects of the spells you want to make. Right? Okay. So there are three main branches of magic in Ethera, right? Just I guess before we go into that, we have the Fata or the Fae. The Fae, in my game, in my role, they are more closely related to the mythological and folkloric part of the legends. So satyrs, taking away young ladies to do the deed. Beautiful women at night, taking away children, things like that. So the Fae, it's not that they are necessarily evil, but the way they subsist requires a degree of human suffering. But recently in the world, the alchemists discovered a way to get Fae blood, and working in such a way that they managed to extract something they called Fata Vitae or Fata Vitae. Through Fata Vitae, it's possible to work some incredible and interesting effects in the alchemical part of the sciences, right? So they can make super fertilizers. So droughts and ages of hunger, that is not a problem. Through Fata Vitae, you can work super medicines, so pests that can be worked with. Even with the right amounts of other components and Fata Vitae, you can create ambrosia, which is this miracle working elixir. It can extend someone's life. It can regenerate lost limbs. So for the longest time, the Fae have been their predators, but now in this new era that the world of Ethera is going on, Fae are also becoming the prey. So you have this interesting conflict of conflicting interests, right? And yeah, I'm not gonna get into that now. That can be another video maybe, but that's important to understand, right? So what are these branches? You have alchemancy, and the spiritual magic. You could argue that elementalism and spiritual magic are one thing only, but mechanically they work different, so I'm separating them, but really you have those two. So let's go one by one on how they work. All right. First one is alchemancy. And I am on top of the thing. Let's go down here. So alchemancy, the idea of alchemancy is that you are shaping the elements through affinity to forced and manipulated artificial affinity to the elements. So what is alchemancy? It is a very advanced part of, of alchemy in which the alchemist becomes the potion, the alembic. So again, the humors, right? Alchemages can go through a very specific and painful process, which is the alchemancy initiation that involves the 7 steps I have here on screen. They involve injecting different types of acids in their bloodstream to eliminate impurities. It involves injecting mercury. You know, you are removing their blood. You are putting them through extreme heat so they can sweat all the impurities of their bodies, and then you can start injecting newer fluids, cleaner, manipulated fluids. And again, remember, this is all like a 15th century medicine, and so laboratory is clean to the best of their capabilities. This process will usually kill the initiatee. Is that a word? Yeah, I'll use initiatee. I'm pretty sure you can understand. They usually kill in the first step, the calcination, which is the acid part. So it is a very, in terms of wealth, it costs a lot to create one, and because they will mostly likely die in the process, and you are using so many resources, so many materials and alchemical compounds that the initiatees are selected very carefully, right? So if they pass, they become an alchemage. And what this process does to them is they are purposefully unbalancing their humors to levels which would be fatal to a normal person. So let's take a black alchemage, a melancholic alchemage, right? He's producing a tar-like substance in his body, the black bile, which people believed was the origin of things like cancer and tumors, to absurd levels, just so they can have affinity to the element of earth. And because their humors are all unbalanced and humors regulate emotions, these alchemages, they become these living caricatures of the emotions related to their fluid. So the sanguine mages, the blood mages, they they look they look like a child, you know, like rosy skin, always smiling, always giggling. Everything is funny to them. They're always so aloft, even when they don't want to. But because they're producing so much blood, that's just how they are, you know. And how that ties to the mechanic is their score in their humor in their character sheet is way up than the other ones. So that makes so that every time the character acts in a sanguine way, he's succeeding most of the time, which also makes true the opposite. If something happens, if the sanguine alchemage suddenly has to be serious and mature, he has to be phlegma, he's not going to do well because that's not his nature. That goes into spells as well. So all the spells that are related to the element of air, levitation, you know, um, I can only think right now of levitation as an example. He needs to use that emotion. So if something happens and he got the trait scared, for example, or worried, that is going to disrupt his casting. But well, so when alchemages, they do a lot of elemental magic in this way. And again, this process, it is a spiritual process as well. They do get taught by priests along the way. They get blessings. Being the 15th century inspired world that Etera is, religion is the norm. So everyone is religious, right? And then they have to go their entire lives conducting monthly extractions and checkups because they will still get sick due to their humoral unbalance. So they need to do extractions. So this is a black, an earth alchemage, right? Melancholic alchemage. Also, each humor is related to a specific organ. So I can't really remember out of my head right now the earth, the black bile, which I think it was the spleen. So imagine having to, get stabbed in this spleen monthly just so you can leave and, work a minor spell. Same thing goes for the other ones. The yellow one, which is the choleric, the rage one. It's true. His ammonia, his urine, he has to pee all the time or vomit, force his vomit out all the time. The red mage, the blood mage, alchemage, he has to do bloodletting constantly because he has so much blood that it's funny because if you have a lot of blood in your system, you actually have problems to breathe. The oxygen intake doesn't work properly, which is funny because being a blood mage, a sanguine alchemage, makes you a air alchemage, but you know that's what happens when you try to take the middle way, cheating the world to the elements so they can obey you. That is alchemancy. So how does it work? In Eterra, you have spell names, and let's say for example, exfoliate. Exfoliate. I don't know if English is serving me now. I think it's with S. I'll go with S. You have that name. With that name, you can on the spot elaborate how that spell works, or rather saying, you say what you do. So, for example, let's say I'm a melancholic mage, right? I'm going to use my exfoliate spell. And the thing is that there is this wooden door that we cannot open. So I say, I look at the door and I touch it with my hand so I can feel the texture of the wood. Uh, and I see that this material can be easily deteriorated. So what I do is I rub my eye so it starts to tear a bit, and my tears are black due to this bile in my body. I get this little bit of tear. I rub between my fingers and I put it on the door, and then I say a prayer in the pristine language so that the door can start to deteriorate, so I can erode. Yeah, I'm a little tired. English is not working so well today, but I can make so that the wood starts to age it in an unnatural pace, and it starts to disintegrate. And I do the roll, right? That's how it works. Maybe next time exfoliate can do something else, but it needs to tie. You need to role play and tie the name to the effect, and based on the effect, you use the correct element or humor to make it work, right? That goes for all the branches of magic. That's how magic works. I have 4 spells for each type of branch of magic pre-written, and the rest there is a little table that you roll to generate that name. I have a table so that you have a very suggestive name. So that's how you can get new magic as well as you progress through the game. Okay, so next one is spiritual magic. This one is a little bit more packed because it has more subdivisions, sub branches, let's say. But spiritual magic, the idea is that you are working miracles through faith and covenants with spirits. First, you have the theurgy, which is the holy magic, is the magic of the church. Clerics or priests that are able to make they don't really have spells. They say they have miracles. How does it work mechanically is that you can only cast a spell once per scene, and maybe I should make another video explaining how I do scenes in my game as well. But only once per scene, but you do not have to roll, and the humor doesn't matter because you are not using your body to manipulate reality. You are using your faith through a third party that would be your god or the spirit that you are working for. As a cleric, that would be the main two gods of the world, the human faith. You have spells like Reprove Entity, Bless, or Raise the Dead, Raise the Departed. The thing is, with Theurgy, because they use rituals to cast their spells, that's why it's slow and they can only cast once per scene. That represents this very deep and spiritual thing. They are not casting willy-nilly. For a cleric to cast a miracle is a very sacred thing, so he's not going to do it just for fun. He needs a good reason to do that. And they have to follow 3 main commandments. There are more, but these 3, they sum up the faith of the progenitors, which again I can talk about the cosmology in another video maybe, which is thou shalt not worship strange gods, thou shalt not kill thy neighbor, thou shalt protect the holy seed, which is the humankind. If you're not doing these things, you cannot do spells as a cleric, you cannot do miracles. But yeah, Theurgy is the church magic, right? Then you have Goetia. Goetia is, let's say, the black magic. You are doing covenants with demons and strange spirits so they can lend their power to you. And similar to Theurgy, it doesn't matter the humor that you are using to cast a spell. But here's the thing. In Etera, there are miscasts. If you cast a spell, if you roll for a spell and you do not beat the target number, there are some side effects. Theurgy doesn't have that because again, if you are following the commandments and you are following the will of the patron saint you follow, or the church, what the church says, it will work. Goetia doesn't have that, so you do roll, you don't worry about humors like the alchemages do, but if you do miscast, there are some more dire consequences to it. They have spells like Golden Fury, Crimson Will, which I wrote that they have to take a little bit of their blood and like kind of anoint the adversary or the target's forehead, and they impose the evil wizard, the demonized wretch in this case, impose his will on the target. Now the target has to make a very hard test to resist that. Otherwise, the wizards will be impregnating the other person. So Goetia branch is all about giving in to your sinful nature and forcing things to be your way. That's the nature of Goetia. And yes, you do have to specify like what specific kind of demon did you make covenants with, because that will come up. Part of the miscast consequences are your patron being displeased with you, and now you have to make him pleased again. So we need to specify that, so that will come up during the game, during the roleplay. Then you have the Fairyism, which was the elementalism part. That is the heathen magic. So for the church, it's all Goetia, but in the game there is this difference. Fairyism, they do use humors, but what they are doing is they are talking to the elements themselves. So they believe that the elements, like the primordial fire, the first fire created by the gods from the ether, is an entity, is a god, and all the other fires, as small as they are, a little candle flame, they contain a little bit of that intelligence. So they are living thing in a weird way. What Fairyism or the paganism is doing is conversing with these elements so they can do favors. So you have spells like Rune Rose, Dew of Revelation, Star Trance, I really like Duel for Revelation. The Duel for Revelation one, you get a little bit of droplet in your finger, and you close one eye and you look through the other one, and that little dew becomes like your, what's the name? Like the orb, the wizard orb, and you have to sing it a little praise to the deer, kind of like flirt with it a little bit in a way so that it can reveal you a secret. So fairism is about that kind of magic. Uh, I guess again, maybe I make a video about religion, but there are the old gods, the pagan pantheon, and like if you see the colors, there's a little thing here. The demons and fae, they are related to these old gods. So a Goetia user may be related to one of these, Um, and that's it. I guess I talked it faster again than I thought I would. But that's how I do magic in my system. But yeah, so I guess some final words. That's how I do it. You're still using the same system for any other skill check. You get your ability. In Alchemage's case, that would be your brains. Clerics and Goetia users use their heart, you know, and so on, so on. Plus the humor if you beat the target number. So let me say that again. You have the abilities plus the humor plus a mastery plus any other trait that may apply. That is your target number. You roll. If you get equal to or under that number, congratulations, your spell worked exactly as you said it would. It's been working fine. Again, I watched one of Shoner's video and he said that stuck with me. If you make players think they're not returning, and yeah, sometimes simpler requires more, brain juice. I find it extremely enthralling. One, because I don't know what the players can do. I've been impressed by some players, the way they used words, like double meaning to make a spell work. That is exciting for me. That is like reading a book and like seeing a little plot twist happen. Like, oh, like this character can do that. Like he could do that all along. You know, those kind of things happen, and I find it again very, very enthralling to narrate the game as. I might change some things in the future. I'm always open to change and make things better, but uh, for me, I found this sweet spot with this open-ended freeform magic. I took inspirations from some other RPGs like I had in the first part of the video down there. Maze Rats, Dungeon World has something similar as well. But yeah, that's magic in my game Etera. And maybe I'll make another video going into more details because there are other things like I added some specific spices. For example, mercury is related to air and water, so blood. So it was like I added some specific alchemical compounds that if you have that, it helps you cast magic. Like cinnamon is a blood thing because cinnamon thins the blood. It was also used for like mummification, those kind of things. So yeah, there are things like that as well that affect. But that's the main gist of it. So yeah, thanks for listening listening to my autism dump.